I got a camera. I'm so excited. So today we are going to be working on filet crochet. I'm going to teach you what it is, how to find patterns, how to read patterns, and how to make the skirt or something like it. She's gorgeous. I can't teach you how to do the slip underneath because I am not an expert in sewing yet, so I'm gonna not give any advice on that. So we'll start with what is filet crochet. So here's an example of what filet crochet is and looks like. It is a type of crochet that's made up of a grid-like pattern, and there's open meshes and closed meshes. The terms that I'm going to use today are meshes, open meshes, and closed meshes. There's a lot of different terms people use to explain these little squares within the grid, but meshes I believe is like the traditional way to do it, so I'm trying to follow that. But so it's made up of a grid, as you can tell, and there are open meshes which are made up of chains, like these right here. And then there are closed meshes which are made up of double crochet, which are these right here. There are patterns where the closed meshes make up the design and then the open meshes are the background, like this one. And then there are also patterns where the open meshes make up the design and then the closed meshes are the background. This is a skirt that I made. It's a pattern that's on my website and my Etsy. If you want to make it, it uses filet crochet and then also just normal crochet for that. Traditionally, filet crochet is made of white crochet thread like this one, but you can really use any yarn, any hook, any size, any color, whatever you want to do. It's just that the smaller your yarn, the more meshes you'll have in your design, and the more meshes you have, the more detailed your design can be. So it just depends what you're going for. So to make a filet crochet piece, you read a 2-color pattern. There's the dark color and then the light color. The dark color is the closed meshes, the light color is the open meshes. But I want to give you some resources of where to find some great patterns. Obviously Pinterest is a great resource. There's also archive.org that has a ton of great resources on there, and they're all, I believe, in the public domain. There's also antiquepatternlibrary.org, which is like, they have so much stuff on there. Definitely go on there. There's also freevintagecrochet.com. You can go to your local library to get some books there, and then you're also supporting your community, which is great. And then there's also Etsy and Ravelry where you can go and buy patterns. I think there's free patterns on Ravelry. I actually don't know much about Ravelry. I need to get on there. Another great resource to learn about filet crochet is Craftsy, the sponsor of today's video. Craftsy is an online community of creative, like-minded makers where members can find endless inspiration, advance their skills, and discover their new favorite hobby. Learn directly from the experts, with classes taught by experienced, award-winning instructors who share their professional techniques that will take your skills to the next level. They have classes in crochet, knitting, quilting, sewing, painting, drawing, cooking, baking, cake decorating, and so many more. With over 2,000 classes in more than 20 creative categories, there's always something new to learn. Taking Craftsy classes has helped me learn a lot about crocheting, knitting, and sewing, and I'm even thinking about taking a baking class, because why not? The first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the video description will get a full year of premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49. This offer is valid for new members only. Join Craftsy today. Alright, so those are some resources for finding patterns, but if you want to make your own, stitchfiddle.com is a great resource for that. A great resource for that. So you can make your own patterns on there, or you can even put in a photo for them to make a pattern out of the photo. Experiment with that if you want. It's really cool. I will link all of those resources below, and whichever pattern you decide on, I definitely recommend printing it out so you can cross out each row that you finish. I'm a little lazy and just do it on my phone, so you can do whatever you want, but alright, so now that you know what crochet, what's crochet? So now that you know what filet crochet is, where to find patterns, I'm going to show you how to read the patterns and how to actually do filet crochet. So we're going to move down to the floor, not that I'm not already on it, but we are going to I'm gonna point the camera at the ground is what I'm trying to say, and I will show you how to do all this. So you can use any yarn that you want, but it's recommended to use a hook that's 1.5 to 2 sizes smaller than the hook that your yarn recommends. So grab your yarn and hook, and then we will get to a little practicing of filet crochet and reading charts. Alright, so here is a chart that I made and printed out. It's super simple, just something to start off with. So as you can see, the chart is made of filled in blocks and empty blocks, also known as closed meshes and open meshes. There are multiple ways to do filet crochet, and they mostly depend on your tension and stitch height, but your overall goal is to have your meshes be as square as possible, so as high as they are wide. The most important thing to note is that in every pattern, the grid lines are going to be double crochets, which means that each mesh is going to share their first and last double crochet with the mesh before and after. So this is a double crochet, but it's a part of this mesh and this mesh. And then this is also a double crochet, but it's a part of this mesh and then this closed mesh. So the first way I'll show you is, I believe, the more traditional way to do filet crochet, where each open mesh is made up of 2 chains, and then each closed mesh is made up of 2 double crochet. And you're probably like, what do you mean 2? But remember what I just said, that there's a double crochet in between every single mesh. So technically each closed mesh is 4 double crochet, and then each open mesh is a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet. But remember, they're sharing the same starting and ending double crochet. Once you actually start doing this, that will make a lot more sense. The second way I'm going to show you is where each open mesh is 1 chain, and then each closed mesh is 1 double crochet. From my understanding, this method is helpful when you're using larger yarn and your pattern is larger, but you want a smaller piece, but you still want to use that pattern. I did this method for my green skirt since my yarn was thicker. So like I said, the goal is to have your meshes be perfect squares, meaning they are as high as they are wide, but everyone's tension is different, so the height of your double crochet might not make your meshes a perfect square. So a way to make your meshes perfect squares are to change your double crochets to either a extended double crochet or a treble crochet, and I did all 3 of them for both methods. So this is the 1 double crochet and 1 chain per mesh method, and here I have the double crochet, here I have an extended double crochet, and here I have a treble crochet. So for me, my double crochet is a pretty good square. If I look at it from both angles, it looks like a square still, which is great. So I work with a double crochet when I'm doing 1 double crochet per closed mesh and 1 chain per open mesh. So this is my technique here, but if you find that your double crochets are too squat, a little too small, you can try an extended double crochet, which I'll show you, and then if that's still too small, you can try a treble crochet. Obviously for me, my treble crochets are tall, so they don't really work with this method. All right, and here are my squares for the method where you're doing 2 double crochet per closed mesh and then 2 chain for open mesh. So as you can see, my double crochets are too short for this method, so I tried the extended double crochet, that worked pretty well, and I tried the treble crochet, and it's still a little bit too tall. So when I do this method, I'll use an extended double crochet. And keep in mind, as you're changing your stitch, you'll have to change the amount of chains that you start with. So normally a double crochet is 2 or 3 chains at the beginning, and then extended double crochet is 3, at least for me, and then treble crochet is 4 chains in the beginning. So just keep that in mind. I'll talk about that more in a bit. So I'm going to use this yarn. It calls for a 3.5 millimeter hook, but since we're going down 1.5 to 2 sizes, I'm going to do a 1.75 millimeter hook. So we're going to start with this method where there is 2 double crochet per closed mesh and 2 chain per open mesh. So when you start a filet crochet piece, you're always going to start with a slip knot and a foundation row. Your foundation row can be made up of chains, or it can be a foundation single crochet row. You can also do a foundation half double crochet or double crochet. I would recommend that for this skirt actually, so you have like a thicker waistband to add your elastic to, because we're going to be adding elastic to the waist. But yeah, so we're starting with the foundation row. For this method, to find the amount of stitches to start with, we're going to take the total number of meshes in the first row, multiply it by 3, and add 1. This is because we have 2 chains and 2 double crochet per mesh, plus the double crochet on the grid lines in between each mesh. So that makes up for 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then our extra 1 is our starting stitch. So for this, we have 5 meshes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to multiply that by 3, which is 15, and then add 1. So we're going to start with 16 stitches. So I'm going to do a foundation chain. So I'm going to do 16 chains. Then we're going to make our first grid line made up of chains. So we're going to do double crochets right now. So we're going to do 2 chains, 1, 2, and then our first mesh is an open mesh, so that means we're going to do 2 chains. So 2 more chains. And then we're going to double crochet, and to figure out which chain we double crochet into, we count backwards the chains we just did. So we'll do 1, 2 chains here, 1, 2 chains here, and then we had our extra stitch here, and then it's going to be 1, 2. So we're counting back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chains, and we're going to go into the 8th chain. So let's do that. So the 8th chain from the hook, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're going into that chain. We're going to double crochet. And then our next mesh is an open mesh, so we're going to chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and then double crochet in the next stitch. Chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and then double crochet in the next stitch. Our next mesh is a closed mesh, so we're going to double crochet in the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. You're probably wondering, why are we double crocheting in 3 stitches? I thought you said it was 2 double crochet per mesh. Yes, that's true, but remember I said that every grid line is a double crochet. So we have a double crochet here, you can't really see that, and then 1, 2 double crochet, and then a double crochet here. So that makes up 4. I'll do it down here too. 1, 2, 3, 4. So next we have an open mesh, so we're going to chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and then double crochet. 1, 2, skip 2 stitches, double crochet in the next. And then we're ending with an open mesh, so we'll chain 2, skip 2, and then double crochet in the next. All right, so there's our cute little first row, which is made up of 2 open, 1 closed, 2 open. So once you finish a row, you can cross it right off. So to start our second row, we're going to chain 2 and then turn our work. Since we're turning our work, instead of reading from the right side, like we did in the first row, we're now reading from the left to the right. And when you're working in rows, you're going to alternate every single row. So first row, we're starting from the right, second from the left, third from the right, fourth from the left, and then fifth from the right. So it's helpful to add these arrows if you need that. But now we are working on row 2, and we are starting from the left side. So we did our chain 2, which is our initial double crochet, and we're starting with an open mesh. So we're going to do chain 2, skip 2 stitches, which are the 2 chains that we did in the last row, and then double crochet in the next stitch, which is the double crochet from the last row. Next we have 3 double crochet in a row. So when there's multiple double crochet in a row, it can get a little confusing. So I like to think of it as 3 double crochet per stitch because you have your 2 double crochet and your grid line. So you can take the amount of closed meshes and multiply it by 3, and that's how many double crochet you're gonna do. So for this, we have 3 double crochet, multiply that by 3, and that is 6, or no, and that's 9. So we'll do 9 double crochet in a row. So you can work into the chains from before, or you can just work right around it. I'm gonna work around it because that's much easier, and I believe that's what they do traditionally. If you go around, remember you're only doing 2 per mesh. And then we'll go into the grid line. Work right into the double crochets from before. And then we'll do 2 in this mesh. And then one last one on this double crochet from before, which is the grid line. So we just did 9 double crochets, but if you count it, there's gonna be 10 because of the first double crochet that was the end of the first open mesh. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And to end the row, we are going to do an open mesh. So we'll do chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and then double crochet in the next one. So you're double crocheting right into that, that third chain from where you're at right now. And there's row 2. To start the third row, we are going to chain 2 as our first double crochet, turn our work, and now we're reading from right to left for row 3. So we're starting with an open mesh right now, and we have 2 in a row. So 2 times 3 double crochet is 6 stitches. So we'll do 6 double crochet to start with. All right, and when we count it back, there's gonna be 7 since we have that first chain 2 from our first double crochet. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Awesome. Next we have an open mesh. So we are, oops, you know what I realized? I never crossed off row 2 to let me know that I was done with it. Bye. Okay, next we have an open mesh. So we'll do chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and double crochet in the next. And then we have 2 closed meshes to finish it off, so we're just gonna double crochet in the next 6 stitches until the end. So here you can go around the chains twice, and then into the third chain from the bottom there. Or you can go straight into the chains if that's easier for you. It just takes me so long to get my hook through a chain. Oh, right, so that's the end of row 3. It's starting to look like something, right? So that's the basics of how to do this. Now I want to talk about how we can find our right stitch for our tension. So if you're finding that your 4 double crochet in a row are as tall as they are wide, then you're golden. You can continue with your double crochet with your 2 stitches per mesh method, and you'll be good with that. But if you're finding that your double crochets are too short and your squares are wider than they are tall, then I'm going to show you how to do an extended double crochet, which works for me. And then if you find that an extended double crochet is still too short for you, you can try a treble crochet. Now we finished row 3. Let's cross that off. And we're starting row 4 from the left side. So we're going to start by chaining 3 since we're doing the extended double crochet now. Flip our work, and we are starting with an open mesh, so we'll chain 2, 1, 2, skip 2 stitches, extended double crochet in the next. And to do an extended double crochet, we're going to yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through just the first loop, not 2. And then we're going to yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over, pull through the last 2. I'll show you that a bunch more. We have 3 closed meshes in a row, so we're going to do 9 more of these extended double crochets. So let's do that again. We'll yarn over once, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through just the first loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And you can see how it's a little bit taller than the double crochet, but not by much. So let's do that again. Yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through just the first loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Again, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. I'm going to do that again, but stop talking. All right, so there are my now 10 extended double crochets in a row. Let's finish our row with a open mesh. So we'll do chain 2, skip 2 stitches, and then extended double crochet in that last stitch there. All right, so that's row 4. You can already tell that that is taller than the last 2 rows. Cross out that row. And then we're going to finish with row 5, starting from the right. We're going to continue this extended double crochet so you can see what that like one block of double crochet on its own looks like for you. So we'll start with our chain 3. Flip our work. Reading from the right, we start with a open mesh. So chain 2. Skip 2 stitches, double crochet in the next. And remember, we're doing extended double crochet. Another open mesh. So chain 2, skip 2, extended double crochet. Only pull through that first loop that first time, and then we'll do 2 the next 2. Now we have a closed mesh, so we'll do 3 extended double crochets in a row. And then we'll finish with 2 open meshes. All right, and that is your square finished here. Obviously it's like weird because it has 2 different stitches in it, but that is how you do your extended double crochet. If that works better for you, you should see that your 4 double crochet here look like a square. So if you're still finding that your extended double crochets are too short, you can try out a treble crochet, and that is how you do the 2 stitches per mesh method. Now I'll show you how to do the 1 stitch per mesh. All right, so we are going to start the same way with a slip knot and a foundation row. This time when you're finding the amount of stitches, since we only have 1 stitch in between each grid line, we are going to multiply our number of meshes in the first row by 2 instead of 3 like we did before. So we'll do 5 times 2, and then we add 1. So that equals 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11. So we'll chain 11 stitches. So I have 11 here. Then I'm going to chain 2 for my first double crochet there. 1, 2. And then we're starting with an open mesh. So I'm going to chain 1, not 2 this time. So now to find which chain we're going to double crochet into, we're going to count backwards. So here's 1 chain here. 1, 2 here, 1 right here, and then 1 right here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6 for where we're gonna double crochet into. So count 6 chains from your hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we will double crochet right into that chain. Next we have an open mesh. So we'll chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, Next we have a closed mesh, and we already have this double crochet where the grid line is done right here, because that's how we finished the last open mesh. Then we're going to do 1 double crochet for the closed mesh, and then for the grid line we'll do 1 more. So there'll be 2 more double crochets to make up 3 double crochets for the closed mesh. So do 2 double crochet, and then if you count back, there should be 3. 1, 2, 3. Next we have 2 more open meshes, so we'll do chain 1, skip 1 stitch, double crochet in the next, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next. All right, so again, we were working from right to left there. Sorry, I forgot to say that again in the beginning. We finished row 1, so we can cross her off. Now we're gonna work from left to right. So we're gonna start with our chain 2, turn our work. We're starting with an open mesh, so we'll do chain 1, skip a stitch, and then double crochet in the next stitch. Now we have 3 closed meshes in a row. So for this method, you can think of each closed mesh as 2 double crochet. So we have 3 closed meshes in a row. So we're going to do 3 times 2 and do 6 closed meshes. So 1, work right into the stitches here, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then when you go back and count it again, there'll be 7 since we had 1 double crochet to start with. That was part of the first open mesh there. And then we're going to finish it with a open mesh, so we'll chain 1, skip 1 stitch, and then double crochet into the next stitch, which is that chain here. All right, we'll do 1 more row. So we're starting from the right again on row 3. We're starting with 2 closed meshes. So remember, each closed mesh can be thought of as 2 double crochet. So we'll do 4 double crochet for the 2 closed meshes. And when you count back, there'll be 5 since we had 1 to start with. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we have an open mesh. So chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. And then we have 2 closed meshes to finish, so we'll do 4 more double crochet. And then we will double crochet in that last chain there, if I can get my hook through. All right. And that is how you do this method, where there's 1 stitch per mesh. So I recommend doing what I did and trying all the different stitches in each method and seeing just which one you like best, what you're most comfortable with, which one makes the perfect square. And then once you find your perfect stitch and method, we can move on to making the green skirt. All right, so now that you know how to do filet crochet and how to read charts, now we can talk about this skirt. So, when making clothing from filet crochet, you can either start with your yarn or start with the chart or pattern. So for this, I had the green yarn first, and then I had the idea to make a filet maxi skirt. So I went from the yarn to then finding the pattern. So to do that, you need to find out how many meshes you need to go around your hip measurement. And then once you have that number, you then go find a pattern that has that amount of meshes. To find the amount of meshes you need, you're going to make a swatch of only open meshes to calculate how many meshes you'll need. So this skirt was made from this pattern, pretty much a square, I think, if I'm remembering it correctly. So it is a complete just rectangle worked in the round. There's no increases, no decreases. It's just straight up and down a rectangle. But since there's no increases or decreases, you need to find the measurement of the widest part of your hip, since it has to go over that section. You want to measure the widest part of your hip. So for me, that's just about 40 inches. So 40 inches, or I believe it's like 100 centimeters. It's 2 centimeters is what I'm going off of. But now I'm going to switch over to the floor again so you can see what I'm doing with my hands better. And yeah, let's go. All right, so here is an example of a complete square swatch. So if you're gonna do this, I would recommend doing the full square, but I have confidence that this is enough for me. So I'm gonna measure this and see. I'm gonna use centimeters just because it's a little bit more exact. I'm gonna do 10 centimeters, see how many meshes I get in 10 centimeters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's about a centimeter per mesh, which is awesome. Time out. So I measured incorrectly. I did not stretch my swatch at all. So I got 10 meshes per 10 centimeters, but now my skirt, I haven't gotten very far, but it's way too big. Not way too big, but it's too big. It's not what I want it to be. So now I measured it again, and when I measure for 10 centimeters and stretch it, it's 7 meshes per 10 centimeters. So I recommend getting your flat measurement and a stretched measurement. And if you want your skirt to be loose, go for the higher number of meshes to use that for your math. And if you want it to be tighter, go for the lower number. And if you want it to be in between, go for somewhere in between. And just remember that crochet always stretches over time, so I would recommend going a little smaller. So I'm going to leave all those calculations in, just know that I'm ending up changing it because I didn't stretch it. So just keep that in mind. Okay. I'm going to use my measurements and then also write out the equation without numbers, of just like words of what each number is, what each number represents. But for now, I'll use my measurements. So my hip, can you see that? Yes. My hip is let's do 40 inches or 100 centimeters. And then my swatch is 4 inches or 10 centimeters. Oh, look how that's so convenient, how easy that is. And then also my swatch is 10 meshes per 10 centimeters. So our equation is hip measurement divided by swatch measurement equals the number that you get from that times the amount of meshes in the swatch. Mesh in swatch. Okay, so to go backwards. So hip measurement divided by swatch measurement equals that number times the amount of meshes in your swatch equals the total number of meshes in your first row. Sorry, my handwriting's not too hot today. All right, so I'll do that with my measurements. Hip measurement divided by swatch measurement. So 40 divided by 4 equals 10. So 10 is this number, and then we're gonna multiply it by the amount of meshes in a swatch. So we'll do that number times 10 meshes. I'm gonna also, math teachers would be mad if you didn't add the, do you know what I mean? They get mad if you don't add whatever word I'm trying to find for that. And then we're gonna do 10 inches times 10 meshes equals 100. 100 meshes in first row. So I am looking, That was a horrible box. Fun fact, I actually went to school for teaching for 5 years, in college. Yes, I have 2 degrees in teaching. So I will be looking for a pattern with 100 meshes in the first row, or also you could say 100 columns. To find the length you need, you're gonna do this same process, but instead of hip measurement, you are going to measure the length that you want your skirt to be and then insert that number here and where it says hip measurement. All right, so once you find the amount of meshes you need for your hip and the amount of meshes you need for the length you want your skirt to be, then you can go search for a pattern. Ideally, it would be a pattern that has those exact amount of meshes, but that's probably going to be really hard to find. So you can also find a pattern that is larger than you need and then crop it to your perfect amount of meshes, or maybe round to certain numbers to make it easier to find a pattern that works for you. You can also do stitch fiddle. I have taken a pattern that I like and then like manually click every dot in stitch fiddle to like make my own pattern with the amount of meshes that I need. So you can do that. This is honestly the hardest part of the process, is finding a pattern that works for you, but don't give up. There's lots of resources I gave you. I'll also add the pattern that I used for this skirt. I believe it was 80 meshes that I needed for my hip, and it was a repeating pattern, which is so convenient if you can find a repeating pattern. So once I got to the bottom of the pattern, I was able to start from the top again to just keep going since it was repeating. So yeah, go search for your pattern and then come back when you're ready to start. Now, if you've found your perfect pattern that you want to use, you then need to find the right yarn and hook size to make that pattern fit your body. To do this, you're pretty much going to have to do a lot of trial and error with swatches with different yarns and hook sizes to find the perfect yarn for this pattern. So I will show you how to do that. Let's go back to the ground. All right, so the equation for this is hip measurement over swatch measurement equals meshes in the pattern in the first row divided by meshes in the swatch. So let's say for this purpose that you found a pattern that is 80 meshes in the first row. Pattern. And we'll stick with my hip measurement, so I should have done that better, but whatever. So hip equals 40 inches. So we'll do hip measurement is 40 inches, and there are 80 meshes in the pattern. So I like to do 4-inch swatches, so I'm going to put the number 4 in, and that works perfectly. And then we will find the number of meshes in the swatch. So we are trying to find X. Okay, kids, who remembers how to do this from algebra? I barely do. So first we're going to figure out what 40 divided by 4 is, and that is 10. So that's 10 equals 80 over X. And I'm reading instructions for this, so I'm sure this is right. Next, we multiply both sides of the equation by X. So if we do 10 times X, we get 10X equals. So if we do 80 over X times X, that's just going to cancel out the fraction, and then we'll just get 80. Now we want to get X on its own, so we'll divide both sides by 10. So we're trying to get rid of this 10. So we do 10 divided by 10 is 0, and then 8 divided by 10 is 8. So then we get X equals 8. So the amount of meshes in your 4-inch swatch is going to be 8. I hope that makes sense. Another trick you can do, typing into your computer, 40/4 equals 80/X. And then it'll tell you the answer. So you really don't have to know all this, but if you like math, and I don't know. But yeah, so then once you find the amount of meshes you need in your swatch, you are going to just keep trying a bunch of different yarns and hooks until you find a yarn and hook that gives you 8 meshes per 4 inches, or whatever numbers that you came up with. And then once you find that, then you can start your skirt. And when you're ready to find the amount of meshes you need for the length of your skirt, you're going to do this same equation, but instead of hip measurement, you'll do the length measurement that you want for your skirt. It's also important to note that there are definitely going to be some patterns that are just too small and too big, but it really does depend on what yarn you use. So you could try to make anything work. Just might look a little weird. Alright, so I gave up on that skirt that I was working on. I don't even think you saw it much. It was like the red and gold swatch that I was doing. But I'm just going to do a little mini skirt version for you to show you the process, but not have to go through a whole skirt. But yeah, so hopefully by now you found your pattern, hook, and yarn that works perfectly for you. And that's the hardest part. Now you just have to make it, which kind of sounds crazy, but like you're just following a pattern. But I'm just going to run you through the little things like how to start, how we're working in the round, and then when we switch to adding the slits, how that works. So yeah, let's get started then. Alright, so as we know, every filet crochet piece starts with a foundation row. For this skirt, especially if you're making a maxi skirt, since it'll be heavier, I recommend starting with a foundation single crochet, half double crochet, or double crochet. This will allow for more support for your elastic or waistband or tie that you add after you finish the skirt. So to find the amount of stitches to begin with, like we did before, you're going to multiply the amount of meshes in the first row by 2 or 3, depending on which method you're doing, and then add 1. So if you're doing 1 stitch per mesh, you're going to multiply it by 2, then add 1. And if you're doing 2 stitches per mesh, you'll multiply by 3, then add 1. So once you know the amount of stitches to start with, you can make your foundation row. So we always start with our slip knot. If you don't know how to do a foundation single crochet, half double crochet, or double crochet, I have a video on that you can check out. But I'm just going to do a few chains, and then we can meet back when we finish our foundation rows, and I'll show you how to start the first row. So for the beginning of the skirt, we're going to be working in the round. So once you finish your foundation row, you're going to slip stitch into the first chain you made in your foundation row, but make sure it's not twisted. So flatten it out, make sure it's not twisted, and then you're just going to slip stitch into the first chain. So we're going to be working the skirt waist down. So turn your pattern upside down and start reading from the bottom right corner, which is really the top right since it's upside down. So for example, say this is my pattern and I'm going to be working from the top down, so waist down. I'm going to flip it upside down. And now that it's upside down, I'm going to start reading the chart from the bottom right corner. So you're starting here with it upside down. So as you know, we start every round or row with a chain 2, 3, or 4, depending on which method you're using. So start with your chains and then follow your chart from right to left, starting from the bottom right, as I said. And then once you reach the end of the first round, I will meet you back here. So once you reach the end of round 1, you're going to do your last mesh and then slip stitch into the last chain that you made for that initial stitch. And then you are just going to continue working in the round, following your chart from right to left until you reach a point that you want to add your slits. And once you get there, come back to this video and I will show you what to do. Once you reach the section of your skirt where you want to add slits, you're going to start working in rows. If you want 1 slit, you're going to continue following your chart, but once you reach the end of the row, you're going to do your last mesh into the first stitch of the row. So there's like the break there, or the slit, you could say. And then you're going to do your chains at the beginning, turn your work, and then read from left to right and start working in rows for the rest of the skirt. So that's for 1 slit, and then you'll just keep going from one side to the other, back and forth, until your skirt is as long as you'd like, and you'll have a slit there since you're not attaching the round there, since you're working in a row. So if you want 2 slits, you're going to draw a line in your chart to mark halfway. Let's pretend like this is a really nice line, and it's okay. So imagine like we already worked up to here, and all of these are crossed out. So you're marking your halfway mark, and then you're going to keep working because we're upside down. So let me get back upside down. and then you're going to keep working from right to left until you reach the halfway mark, and then you're going to turn your work and work from left to right, and then you're going to continue working in rows until you reach the length of the skirt that you want. And then once you reach the length that you want on the first panel, you're going to do the same exact thing on the other side, but you're going to be working with this half of the pattern, and you're going to attach your yarn in the same stitch that you ended the other panel on. So there's going to be 2 stitches in the 1 stitch from the row before, and then it's going to look the same on the other side. There's going to be 2 stitches in that 1 stitch right there. So I'm going to show you on here to make it a little bit more clear. So let's say we're starting our first slit row. So I'm going to work to the halfway mark. All I'm doing is open meshes for this, but I'm going to work to the halfway mark, and then I'll show you what to do when you get halfway. So once you reach the halfway mark, you're just going to do your chains, turn your work, and then follow your chart back the other way from right to left from the halfway mark. And you'll continue working in rows until your skirt is as long as you'd like. And then I'll show you how to attach your yarn for the second half of the panel. All right, so let's say the skirt is as long as I'd like, and now I'm gonna finish the other half of the skirt. So right in this stitch where this panel ends, I'm going to attach my yarn in there. And then I am going to just start my row like normal and work on the other half of the pattern. And then once I reach the other panel, I'm going to stitch right into that stitch right here. All right, I messed up here. I left the slit from the example from before. Pretend like this is 1 stitch. So I'm at the last mesh, and I'm going to double crochet into the same stitch that the first stitch is in from the other panel. And then I'm just going to continue working in rows until I reach the same length as my other panel, and then your skirt is done. All you have to do is sew in your yarn tails. I added this sort of elastic thread into the waist, but I don't think it was enough. So I'm either going to get a thicker piece of elastic and sew that in, or I might just chain a string to go through the waistband and then tie it so it's a little bit tighter. So you can add an elastic, you can just add like a little string, and yeah, that's your skirt. So yeah, that's the skirt. I hope you liked this tutorial. I hope it was easy to follow. I know there was a lot of information, but once you get the understanding and basics down of like a type of crochet or a form of art, it's so easy to make more than just this skirt. So you can take this understanding to make a shirt or a dress or just like anything that's panels. So I hope you take this knowledge and make lots of cool pretty things, and I would love to see what you make. If you want to tag me on Instagram, TikTok, and whatever. And I think that's all I have to say, so go crochet and have a great day. Bye!